I made some slides. Let's see if this works well. I'm trying to experiment talking. All right, before I share it, I have to actually say it because okay. So we're gonna. I'm trying to figure out a way that we could have a better understanding regarding how the blockade, the U.S. blockade on the Iranian ports, are affecting the Islamic Republic. So let me see if this is going to be an effective way of us going through these topics. And let me know in the chat if you guys like us to do more of this in the future or not. This way of demonstrating things, okay? And again, bear with me because I am practicing this, right? So we have the 60-day deadlock of Iran's crude storage crisis. So because of the blockade, the Islamic Republic doesn't have anywhere to put the oil and it's running out of storage areas, and we'll see why it's going to be hard for them to actually shut down the oil wells, right? So intelligence briefing on capacity exhaustion, maritime evasion tactics, and the impending geopolitical fallout, right? So the US blockade has halted 85% of export volume. We'll see it's not 100%, so we'll see how they're getting some of it out at least. Intensified US port blockades have choked Iran's oil lifeline, creating a severe physical backlog. All extracted oil must now be diverted entirely into finite storage. So they have found some other ways to get some of the oil out, some of it through land, some of them through the shadow fleet. But as apparently the intelligence that we have shows that at least 85% of it has been blocked. And you can see here that we have storage. Do you guys see my mouse? Oh, let me go back here. Do you guys see my mouse when I hover over something? Okay, yes. So we have onshore storage and we have basically floating maritime assets, like basically these tankers. So the assessment on regarding how much storage they have has changed because there's a lot more onshore silos that have are being used that weren't being taken into account earlier. The reason why they weren't being taken into account was because they're so old that they shouldn't be used, but now the Islamic Republic is so desperate that they're using them. So these are the two types of storage spaces that we have. So the blockade is working to perfection according to US intelligence. There is no economic trade going into or out of Iran according to US intelligence official. But we'll see if that how true that is. Okay. So diverted production relies on finite floating storage. To manage the backlog, Iran is relying heavily on maritime vessels anchored offshore. So these are VLCCs. So VLCC, I think it stands for Very Large Crude Container. Is that right? Hold on, let me see. Very Large VLCC meaning Very Large Crude Carrier, not container. Okay, carriers. Okay. So there's onshore storage, and then there's a floating storage on vessels, according to Joseph Webster from the Atlantic Council. So here's the interesting part. Let's see how much time that the Islamic Republic has. Okay, so the countdown to exhaustion is between 15 to 60 days remaining, and this is a big range. So why is this so big? Like, why is it 15 to 16? So Western intelligence confirms Iran will run out of storage within a maximum of 2 months. However, a massive 40-day variance exists based on Iran's willingness to risk its crude quality. So we have a guaranteed capacity for 15 days, and then we have a 40-day risk gap. So common practice dictates avoiding tankers older than 25 years old to prevent oil degradation, but the actual remaining timeline depends entirely on how far Iran is willing, like the Islamic Republic, is willing to go in using these degraded vessels. So that's why you see this range, right? Let me know in the chat if that makes sense, by the way. So the sanctions an anomaly, tactical AIS spoofing. So these are the basically the shadow fleets. Despite the blockade, millions of dollars worth of Iranian crude is successfully evading sanctions through digital maritime deception, temporarily easing storage pressure. So that's how the 15% is going through. So some look, you say Iraqi vessels. So some of these vessels pretend use these tricks to pretend like they are ships from Iraq, right, instead of Iranian ships. So, Windward Intelligence reports a cluster of 10 U.S. sanctioned tankers utilizing this loophole. So that's how some of it is getting out. So day zero source storage exhaustion forces will cause shut-ins. So shut-in is when you close an oil well, and that's really bad for the oil well because you can't just shut down an oil well. You poison it with what it basically destroys their ability, like it destroys your ability to extract the same level of oil or any at all after this whole thing is over. You can't just shut it on off and on, right? So shut-ins are very dangerous for the health of an oil well, right? So it says, assuming the port blockade holes and the spoofing loophole cannot scale to meet total production, both land and sea storage will reach 100% capacity. The mechanical result is unavoidable. Extraction must halt. So once storage capacity is exhausted, the impact will likely extend to oil production itself. So the strategic debate, they have two views on this regarding the forecasting the cost of the shut-ins, right? So Western analysts are starkly divided on the long-term impact of forcing Iran to halt production. So we have two views here. One from on the left, we see from Hashkes from the publication The Swords of Economy, and then on the right we have Joseph Webster from the Atlantic Council. So the left one, which is the vulnerability paradigm, says infrastructure impacts severe degradation. So after a well remains inactive for a long time, it often cannot simply be turned back on. So recovery timeline, years of required rehabilitation, right? And then we have this other guy that doesn't, the Joseph Webster guy. He thinks that might be exaggerated. So he says that the infrastructure impact is limited damage because the Islamic Republic has a history of restarting production quickly, even under heavy sanctions. And the recovery timeline is that the Islamic Republic has a proven ability to bring output back online rapidly. So that's what Joseph Webster thinks. Joseph Webster also, so the strategic horizon, who bears the ultimate cost? Again, this is the Webster guy thinking that maybe we're exaggerating how damaging this might be to the Islamic Republic. Let me see if that view is over here or not. If it's not here, I'll explain it myself. Okay. So storage exhaustion will force significant decisions, creating conditions highly favorable for a forced U.S. Iran agreement. However, geopolitical leverage relies on relative pain thresholds. Yeah, so this I remember this. This was that same guy was arguing that the Islamic Republic has a higher pain threshold, but I don't know how accurate that is because of the internal divisions that we're seeing within the Islamic Republic. They might have a pain threshold, but the pain is getting really high. The Islamic Republic has never had to go through this level of pain before. But that guy is arguing that the Islamic Republic will be able to survive this. Well, has more tolerance for going through this level of economic hardship, right? So again, I don't know why he's saying that because he's not including the potential for an uprising into account when he says that. So on one side, we have complete storage exhaustion and blockade perfection by the U.S. and the coalition. That's the U.S. and coalition. That's their leverage. But for the Islamic Republic on the other side, we have asymmetric economic tolerance. That's the Islamic Republic's counter leverage that they could actually handle more pain than more advanced economies. That's what he says. So he was arguing that the Islamic Republic's pain threshold is significantly higher than the coalitions. The coalitions mean United States and its allies. Shutting in production will impose only limited cost on Tehran while inflicting a proportionally greater economic damage on the global coalition. Again, I don't buy this point because the S&P is at record highs and we're already seeing a huge amount of division right now within the Islamic Republic. But I did want to include this because I wanted you guys to see maybe opinions different from us, so we also take that into account. All right. By the way, let me know if this is me making slides when we go over these topics. Is that helpful, or was it better if I just good? Okay, you guys like it. Fantastic. All right.
Yes. A sketch wanted to add some stuff to this.
What I would say is they probably have a record for adaptation. I wouldn't go straight to their equipment can take it. I would go straight to what that guy said when he put those lines in the US. So we have a big border. So what if they don't have direct negotiations with other governments around, let's say, but not Turkmenistan, Azerbaijan, Armenia, Pakistan? but they have corruption. So they have some guy that's maybe not the government, but he will take some trucks full of oil. You understand what I'm saying? And they start using roads. How many roads do they got out? They also got the Caspian Sea. Are they going to start using that to work with Russia, work with other people to get that out? That would be visible from a satellite, but you may be able to disguise that as coming from other being other things, right? Call it they might get some stuff in, call it humanitarian, but they're dual use equipment, right? This is why it's vital to strike now and not wait 30 days, because striking now is when you can get these choke points. You don't want to wait 30 days where you have to leave. You maybe leave a blockade under a different name, maybe not. I don't know how the laws have changed as far as that. Or maybe you could put some laws in, do some lawfare, and oh, okay, sue me. I'll change it a little bit and run it again. And then you sue me and I change it a little bit and run it again. You could play that game on the blockade, but you don't want to play that game. You don't want to have them play this waiting game and going around the blockade through roads and going around and filling their different equipment that they have. You don't want to do that. You want to strike while you can, because they definitely, that message that you said, oh, we're going to meet in a week from Al Jazeera, that's them asking for more time. Why do they want more time? Because they're doing their adaptation thing. They're finding different ways to get out. And my guess is that the way they're going to start doing it, they're going to start doing it through trucks. It's not a lot, but it may be enough to keep it open. You understand what I'm saying? May it be enough to get it flowing. I doubt it, so you lose less oil wells. And I would be very hesitant to not strike, because they will be adapting. That's what you do in this situation. And everything, I trust more that they will be able to adapt that than that the equipment can take that much damage, and that it's that easy to restart a well, because it's the same technology in every nation that has oil, and every nation knows how hard it is to start up a well. They're not special. They don't got extra magic tech. So I think that it's not just about the technique; it's about the shadow stuff. Oh,
Right.
that's all I have to say about.
So here's the thing: trucks will not be able to at all get even remotely close to the volumes of maritime trade, right? They obviously are using trucks right now to bypass, to try to avoid the blockade, but it's not, but it's so limited. There is a reason why maritime trade is so important. Not even pipelines can compete with the Strait of Hormuz, so let alone trucks. Let me actually show you the best competition to the strait is pipelines. And let's look at the pipelines capacity versus the strait itself. So look at the capacity of the Hormuz Strait. The Strait of Hormuz is 21 million barrels per day, right? And look at the best pipeline. The best pipeline that we have is the East West pipeline by Saudi Arabia, connecting the Persian Gulf to the Red Sea, taking the oil to the Yanbu port. The UAE's pipeline has 1.5, 1.8, maximum 1.8 million barrels per day capacity, and this east-west pipeline has 7 million barrels per day capacity, and the Hormuz Strait itself had 21. So trucks are even so much worse compared to pipelines. So pipelines are do much better than trucks or trains, and even the pipes cannot compete with that, right? With regards to the Caspian Sea, all of the oil infrastructure is in the south. So even if you wanted to get it to the Caspian Sea, like how are you going to get it? You need to use trucks or train. So that would limit your capacity as well. So yeah, it would be, and if your oil wells were up here at the, then sure, you would use the Caspian Sea, but everything is down here. So to get it to the Caspian Sea, so the sea itself is not a bottleneck, but getting it to the sea would be the bottleneck, right? So actually, let me read this. Yeah, infrastructure bottleneck. Iran's massive oil infrastructure, refineries, and major export terminals like Kharg Island is located in the south. There are no major pipelines capable of pumping even 1.5 million barrels per day from the southern fields to the northern Caspian ports. So the Caspian ports and the dark fleet tankers operating there handle only a fraction of the volume moved through the Strait of Hormuz. Current estimates suggest alternative routes, including the Caspian, can only replace less than 10% of Iran's normal export capacity. I think it's much less than that, to be honest. The storage limits. Iran's onshore storage is limited, roughly 55 million barrels. Without the high volume exit through the Persian Gulf, these tanks fill up. Yeah, we already talked about that. So that's why that is very limited. All of these other alternatives. Sketch? Yeah, okay.
That makes me very happy, but I still want to bomb him.
All right.
Ali, you're
Alright.
back on time for the new topic you wanted to talk about.
All right, guys. Guess who's freshly unemployed?
Oh no.
Let's
Okay.
go. I mean, this is so funny. We talked yesterday. And we are like, oh yeah, this is what's going on.